Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cropper here. Going to do a video on teaching your child to read. Now, there are certain books that advocate that you wait until he's like 4 or 5 or 6. And they say maybe show him the letters at the age of 4 and let him write the letters that he likes the looks of. At the age of 5 you might teach him the sounds and stuff, and when he's 6 you start teaching him to read. I'm saying take a 3-year-old and teach him the alphabet, and when he's 4 the kid ought to be able to go to a dictionary for what he needs. Not within reason, a small dictionary. You can't get him the Oxford 800-page Bible thin paper. But when he's 4 he ought to be able to read. So that's what I'm talking about in this course. Now the first thing you're going to need is just a couple supplies. You're going to need some note cards, A, B, C, D, the small and the large, and just show them to the kid one at a time at first, and the numbers. You need 1 through 9, and I would go so far as to go 10, just to give them the basic idea of a 2-digit number. So you're going to teach him 1 through 10 and the ABCs just to start him off. You're going to do this when he's like 3. You can start him when he's 2 1/2 if he's bright. There's no reason not to. There's no damage that can be done by educating a child. Okay. Now this book here, How to Tutor, you're going to see on page 29, Part 2, Reading. And I quote, "Reading is the most important single skill a child will learn during his entire school career. For on the ability to read depends the development of everything else." Now, stop quote for a minute. That just means that the sooner you start him reading, the sooner begins his education. His education doesn't begin until he begins to read. Does not even begin until he can read. In fact, reading is the beginning of real intellectual development, and if the child is not taught to read properly, his entire intellectual development will be handicapped. The written word is the depository of all humanity's complex thinking, and an individual must have easy access to the word of written language to be able to increase his own intellectual development. So you just got to teach the kid to read, and there's no reason to wait. So the first thing you do is you teach him is you just show him the letters, and you say, this is the big A and the small a, and this make the ah sound. You could tell him you think of the word apple or whatever, but do not associate a picture with the letter. This is the picture of the letter. You don't have to integrate an apple or anything. You don't have to surround the kid with cartoons to teach him something. So just teach him the letters and the first 10 digits, and that's fine. First 9 digits and letter 10. And at that point, do a worksheet kind of like this. And this is very simply capital A and a small a, and you just tell the kid do 5 of each letter. Now you just do 5 of them, and then we'll do some other activity and he'll do another 5, because you don't want him to get hand cramps, or I'm not saying whip him until he gets them done. I'm just saying let him practice the letters, and he's going to have fun doing this. Now he's going to have fun doing this because you tell him at the beginning, the thing that I just read from that tutoring book, that the alphabet is the depository of all important knowledge in human history. And you can even tell the kid, you could get the encyclopedia and show him a picture of cuneiform writing and say in the early days there were 4,000 letters. And you tell him you're lucky because I'm only going to teach you 26. You tell them there are 4,000 letters. This is how people used to, put knowledge together, put knowledge down. We're going to get 26 letters on here, and you're going to be able to read every book in the library. And you ought to be able to show him at least 12 books you have at your house. 15, 20 books, how many books you can get for the kid. And you're going to tell him, when we're done with this, you're going to be able to read these books by yourself. And that's his motivation. The modern the modern idea of this is that it couldn't possibly interest the kid. All he wants to do is play and read about, he doesn't want to read anything. He wants to let you read to him about magic and, flying witches and things. which is just nonsense, disgusting propaganda. The child is interested in reality. He is capable of thinking. It's just false propaganda that the kid doesn't want to learn anything when he's young. That's the whole idea that he should play all the time and everything. The New Kindergarten. Full-day child-centered academic by Jean Marzolo, illustrated by Irene Trivius. If you think I'm exaggerating, get this. They're on page 3. They don't even let you breathe, and they already start with the propaganda. We're on page 3. And we have here a cartoon of a teacher and a student. And the teacher says, "The decline of Egyptian civilization was caused by many factors, period, 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 trailing off." That's the teacher's thought. And what does the student say? "Can we make Play-Doh?" And that's what the academics think is going on in a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old's mind. Not true. Now, it's dogma. They don't back it up. It's just fact. That's what they say in their textbooks. The kid's not interested in learning. You can't get him to want to learn. It's impossible. You have to wait for several years. That's what they say. I say baloney. Continuing. My tirade aside, you got your note cards. You teach him the letters. Let him practice the letters and the numbers. And as far as the math goes, then you just start teaching him basic addition. You just do a little worksheet like this, and it's real easy. You just show him what each operation is. Now you're going to see it, and you're going to say there's a pattern. You're automatically going to say 1 plus 1, and then 1 plus 2, and 1 plus 3, and 1 plus 4. You know the pattern. The kid doesn't know the pattern. Now, he'll only do this worksheet twice, and he'll be bored. But until he does it twice, it's new to him. So you think that's boring, but it's not. It's new to the kid. He's learning. And academia thinks it's boring. I don't know, they haven't discovered the inner child or whatever their problem is. You let him do those worksheets on the math and the numbers, and then you start him reading on a fairly simple text. But you don't want to keep him reading Dr. Seuss books, for the first 3 weeks or anything like that. In fact, I don't know if you should show him a Dr. Seuss book. That's probably not a good. You could read that in his free time. What kind of book do you start him on? Something with easy words. You introduce him at first to easy words. Now they have those grade school readers where, Dick saw Jane with the ball. Jane kicked the ball, and Dick and his dog ran after the ball with Jane. I think those are a little bit simple. That was the beginning of the dumbing down of America in the 30s and 40s, or whenever those Dick and Jane books became the craze. But something on that level has to be the first introduction. You can't just walk into the classroom and say, all right, now you know the letters of every sound, and then you spell that word, cough. And the kids see this C-O-U-G-H. And their heads fall off. So you can't start with the abstract words like cough and, juxtaposition. You can't start with those words. You really do have to start on a more basic level and just get the kid comfortable with the basic sounds, and then introduce him, not slowly. You don't have to drag this out over 2 or 3 years. The kid's got to be learning. When he's 5 or 6, he ought to be able to handle just about anything you could throw at him. And he really ought to be able to tackle words like hypothermia when he's 6 years old. There's not a reason he can't. So, anyone who thinks you wait until he's 7 or 8 to introduce the word cough to him because GH makes an F sound and that'll confuse a younger kid, baloney. They underestimate human beings, and I guess they underestimate human beings based on their own psychology. They think, well, if I'm this stupid, no human could be intelligent. So maybe that's the root of it. I don't know. But get this book, How to Tutor, and teach your kid to read. And you just start off with some easy book. Now I have a good book here, which I wouldn't have bought myself. Somebody bought it for me. I believe my fiance got it on sale at a bookstore. And it's a Treasury of Children's Poetry, edited by Allison Sage,